from the title of the video, it sounds like he's going to kill Zuck without attacking, like without touching his keyboard, which is pretty insane just by standing on a certain tile. So let's watch this and let's see how he did it.
What if you could beat the Inferno without learning the mechanics?
Okay.
This video is about the AutoZuck, a brand new computer-solved way to beat the Inferno that's completely different from any other Inferno strategy out there. With the AutoZuck, you don't click to move or click on monsters to attack them. Instead, you enable auto-retaliate, and this is what controls your character and solves the wave for you. In this video, we're going to be going over the theory and mechanics behind AutoZuck, the new RuneLight plugin made specifically for this strategy,
Big, what's good? Good morning.
and the new Inferno analysis tool that make the AutoZuck possible. And finally, we're going to be attempting the world's first auto-retaliate only Inferno run. This was a really fun and challenging data science problem to work on, and I really hope you enjoy.
Damn.
Let's start with a bit of a demonstration on a super simple wave. This is wave 18, and it only has one ranger. We're waiting for it to spawn, but you know what? Before it does, let's just black out the screen. Yeah, we don't need to look at any of this. All I'm doing is I'm just going to look at this little timer right here, and then I'm going to flick my prayers on these specific ticks that I've planned in advance. If we reveal the screen again, you can see that, yeah, this is lining up perfectly with the ranger's attacks. So how did I know this? How can we predict this? Well, believe it or not, on any given wave, we can actually know when the monsters will spawn, where they will spawn, and to a pretty good degree of accuracy, what they will do after they spawn. When they will spawn is the easiest one. If you log into a wave, it's just on tick 15, and I'm using the report button plugin to have this tick timer that shows how many ticks have been logged in for.
This is so nerdy.
In terms of where they will spawn,
I love it.
This is done through scouting the Inferno, which you log into a wave and you log out immediately as you see the monsters spawn, and this shows you where their spawn locations are going to be when you log back in. And I've created a brand new RuneLight plugin to make this a lot easier. Introducing the new Inferno Scouter plugin, which automatically reads this first tick spawn of all the monsters and prints it to this picture right here. And this makes it really easy because when you log back in, you can know exactly where everything's going to spawn. This plugin is also required for the AutoZuck.
Dude, that's how people were cheesing the Inferno, by the way. If you could log out at the right time, you could see the wave and then log out before you got into combat, and then you could think about how to solve the wave before they attack you when you log back in. People are getting their Inferno capes like that.
But you can use it for anything. It's a super powerful plugin. I highly recommend for any of you Inferno runs, you know, those really tough waves, you can scout them, you can use this plugin. It makes things a lot easier, so definitely download it from the official plugin hub. Let's jump to wave 50. This wave has a ranger and a major, and as you can see, we're going to have to be a bit more careful this time about where we spawn in, because if we spawn in just anywhere, they're going to attack us at the same time, and yeah, we got to make sure they're off-ticked somehow. This isn't too hard to do. We just have to find a tile that's in range of one of the enemies, but requires the other one to move one tick before starting to attack us, and then they should line up into a very nice 4-tick cycle that's off-ticked. Also, this tool I'm using is one I'm sure lots of you recognize. It's the Inferno line of sight tool, and it's really useful for seeing all these weird line of sight mechanics, you know, where you can be attacked from, in what circumstances. And it looks like this tile is going to be a good one, so...
Dude, this is fun to watch, and it's super nerdy, but it makes me sad that like, video games have gotten min-maxed this hard. You know what I mean, guys? Like, back in the day, the mystery of, like... The mystery of video games was like the guy who just had the cool armor and gear, and you didn't know how he got it. You know what I mean? Like that mystery, all that mystery is gone. That thing of that unknown thing about like MMOs. Everything is known now. It's solved. It's sad, but it's never going back to the way it was. But it is fun to think back on the nostalgia of like when you were a kid and you just didn't know anything about the game, and you didn't even know how to look it up. And now everything is just, it's in the wiki, which the wiki's awesome, but never thought video games would get to like this level of min-max. This is insane.
Let's test it out. Alright, this is looking pretty good, but how far can we take this concept? Let's take it up a notch and go to wave 57, which has a ranger, major, and melee.
Okay, so yeah, he can find the right tile to create the distance between 4 mobs. But what does he do when it's double blob melee major range? I guess that's what I'm questioning.
The melee is yet another 4-tick enemy, so this really shouldn't be all that different. We'll scout the wave.
I guess
like
he would
before,
just use the
and
pillars,
we'll find
right?
another tile that off-ticks all 3 of them, but it is a little trickier this time. So because the line of sight tool is open source, we can actually modify it and add some basic movement and attacking logic for the enemies. We'll add some buttons to control the ticks, and let's also add a grid that keeps track of all the attacks and when they happen, which can show us that, hey, this tile we're testing, this looks pretty good. All the monsters are off-ticked, so let's try it in game.
Oh my god.
Alright, once again, this is looking awesome. We are prey flicking all the monsters and taking no damage. Now, prey flicking itself is nothing new. I'm sure you've seen top players do crazy prey flicking in speedruns, and you've probably learned some basic prey flicking yourself for the Inferno, but this can be tricky to do because you have to react in the moment. What we're showing here is that you can take your time, pre-solve a simple repeating prayer flick sequence, and this can have the same effect as these incredible top players. Okay, now that we have the core concept down, let's turn on auto retaliate so our character can fight the enemies for us while we just focus on flicking this simple prayer sequence. But this is a lot easier said than done. We can't just use the same tile, because now if our character is auto retaliating, our character is then moving around, being dragged by the enemies, and this is going to change everything. It's going to change the tick sequences, it's going to change when the attacks come in. We need to fully account for the effects of auto-retaliate. We need to predict precisely how our player is going to attack, where it's going to go, absolutely everything. This is the only way the auto-zuck is going to work. We need a platform on which to build this, and our modified version of the Inferno line of sight tool is simply not going to cut it. So, introducing the new Inferno analysis tool. This is going to provide the much needed basis for the auto-zuck, and it's already super powerful.
This guy make this tool?
To use it, just scout the wave with the Inferno Scouter plugin and paste in the code. And then just press play to see.
Oh no. No. Guys. What do you mean paste the code? Don't even tell me people are going to be able to use this.
Exactly what's going to happen if you start on a given tick and turn on auto retaliate. We also have a similar grid which shows when all the attacks come in and all the events are recorded here. To make this possible, there's a lot of tricky code for the monsters, the movement, the attacks, and also since we're now simulating the player and the monsters fighting, we need a player loadout. We're starting with max range and a blowpipe, which tells us how far away we can attack from and how much damage we're going to do with our accuracy, and also how much damage we receive from these attacks. We can simulate that as well. It was definitely a lot of effort to get this right, but the hardest part by far was getting auto-retaliate perfectly accurate. Auto-retaliate is honestly such a finicky mechanic. If you go to the wiki page about auto-retaliate, there's a lot of weird stuff that has to be taken into account here, and it goes well beyond that. Just take a look at this clip here. I spawn in, and the major is the first one that can attack me. The major's projectile is incoming, and so I'm expecting when it hits me, I'm going to auto-retaliate against the mage, right? But no, it hits me and then I auto-retaliate against the ranger instead. This is because auto-retaliate doesn't automatically make you target who attacked you, but instead it's this weird thing where when a projectile hits you, auto-retaliate checks the last monster to initiate an attack.
Dude, this is why when you're in Cox and you all are firing at, you know, the rope room, tightrope? When you're in tightrope, and you're all firing at the same guy, it never attacks the guy who lands the shot first. If you guys all fire like at a similar time. Did you guys ever notice that? So he just explained why. It's usually like the second person to attack that gets the aggro in tightrope.
against you, regardless of if the projectile hit. It's very strange.
Maybe
but
auto
we do
retaliates the
fully
same
take
way
this into
because they're
account,
auto
and
retaliating
we even
basically.
take into account monster index number, which are these little numbers above the enemies you see right here. You probably know that RuneScape is a game of tiles and ticks, and index number is what determines within a given tick how the monster's actions are processed. And this actually is very important for us because it resolves things like what happens if two monsters attack you at the same time, what happens if two monsters are trying to move towards the same tile at the same time. And even though monster index number isn't something we can predict in advance, we can scout it. And yes, the Inferno Scouter plugin, see, this is why the Inferno Scouter plugin is so necessary for the AutoZuck. It takes this into account as well. That's what these little numbers are in the code. It's telling the AutoZuck not just where the monsters will spawn, but also...
Bro is taking the monster's barcode number and figuring out which one's going to attack first. This is a different level, man. This is insane. How can somebody figure this out?
The processing order the game uses to determine these actions. Okay, that was definitely a lot of information, but now we can go back to wave 57 and clear it with auto retaliate.
Bro just ran the simulator and was like, yep, all right, we got this wave. Okay, I don't know how anyone plays with the prayer flicking sounds on. Yeah, he's doing it. So he's letting the pillars die.
Incredible. This is working so well, but we know we can go further. Let's move on to wave 60, which has a ranger, a major,
okay, this is where it gets interesting when there's 4 mobs.
Blob this time.
The blob you have to one tick flick.
Tricky because it attacks on a 6-tick cycle, unlike the 4-tick cycles we've been dealing with thus far. This ends up meaning that we actually will take some damage from the blob. Every other blob hit will hit us, but that's not that much damage for now, so it's okay.
So he can't solve it. That's what I was that's what I was thinking. Because there's no way, because you have to alternate, and if there's a melee mob hitting you, if you could auto retaliate and kill the melee mob quickly, and I was wondering like how he was gonna do this, but apparently he can't do it.
Let's scout the wave, and yeah, this is a hard wave. But here's the solution we've come up with. We should be good. And you can see in this tick grid, these hits that are highlighted in red, those are the ones that are hit off prayer. All the other ones are going to be perfectly blocked, so it's not that bad right now, but we will take some damage. All right, wave 60 with auto retaliate.
This is nuts, by the way.
Okay, this is getting
flicking.
insane. We solved the wave, took very little damage as predicted, but look at what happened right here with the Meteor. It's chasing our character, and right here, it attacks seemingly without ever touching us. Look, it's never in melee range. How is this possible? Well, this is one of those super weird sub-tick processing interactions we were talking about earlier, and this game does have some really weird mechanics, but yeah, the Inferno analysis tool perfectly predicted this, and we even had Protect for Melee scheduled on this tick, and this just
Dang.
goes to show how precise and reliable this program has become. Let's go even further to Wave 61, which has a Ranger, Major, Melior, a
It was
Blob,
scheduled.
and a Bat. Ugh, the Bat. I hate this guy. The Bat attacks on a 3-tick cycle, which is the worst number for what we're trying to do here.
Mr.
Luckily, though,
Keck,
it doesn't do
thank you for
too
the
much
5-monther.
damage, and the Bat actually has a very low attack range.
Guys, one time I got literally soloed by 2 bats. I tried to tank them and kill them quickly, and they just killed me. That was a pretty frustrating kill. But these 2 bats, they max 18s, and if they both hit you, it's 36 every 3 ticks. So you can get killed in like 9 ticks if they just max hit you from a full health.
So we can also search for tiles that not only offer good prayer solutions, but also trap the Bat behind other enemies safely out of range. Once again, let's scout the wave, and especially finding a solution, let alone comparing them to find the best one, is going to be hugely complicated with all these added considerations. So finally, let's automate all of this down to a single button press with the AutoZuck.
The AutoZuck. Here it is. What's the AutoZuck?
The AutoZuck is a program built on top of the Inferno analysis tool that solves for the optimal solution. It takes as input a scouted wave code, a player starting position, and a player loadout. The AutoZuck will then run many simulations, recording the tick grid for each one, and then this data is used to solve for the optimal prayer flick sequence, minimizing damage to the player. The AutoZuck solves this in a pretty cool way. There's only 256 possible prayer sequences, so process of elimination and then some final comparison always tells you the best possible one for your starting tile. The AutoZuck also records some useful stats about these simulations, including a damage distribution, percent of simulations that resulted in death, but most importantly, we want to know average damage, which will essentially be this tile's score. And once we've scored this tile, we can score all the tiles. Yes, we can iterate this process and find the most optimized AutoZuck solution that could ever be found for your particular wave. Here is the AutoZuck panel that you're going to use to control this, and I recommend just leaving this as defaults. And okay, let's get this thing started right now.
I wonder if Andrew Gower ever thought that people would be playing his game like this. This is just insane.
Okay, it's doing the initial exclusions. These are just the easy to rule out tiles.
See, this is the type of shit that Port Khazard thinks about in his mind. I wonder if Port Khazard's brain just works like the AutoZuck.
For efficiency. And here we go. Okay, it's a little slow. We're definitely going to try to make it faster later. But while we wait for it to finish, let's take a tile marker output and take a better look at what's really going on here. Just to be clear, this is not calculating anything in RuneLite. It's a tile marker output. It's purely visual. And it really just goes to show that we really are testing every single tile with many simulations and finding the absolute optimal implementation of our auto-retaliate prey flick strategy. Let's speed it up and take a look at the results.
Bruh. He's calculating every single tile on the grid.
Alright, this is getting a little overwhelming, so why don't we just take a breather and remind ourselves that we are still playing RuneScape here. And these results are all
That's
for
me
wave
right there
61,
chopping the tree.
this wave that we scouted, and yeah, it's a pretty intimidating.
Why he called me out like that? Anybody ever chop tree? AFK? That's what I do. That's how I play RuneScape.
Wave. But here is the solution the AutoZuck is recommending. It's recommending that we start on this tile and that we pray the sequence range, melee, mage, mage. We are projected to take 75 damage here, and we have a 30% chance of death, which is really bad, so we're definitely going to have to do something about that later. But you know what? For now, this is good enough. Let's try it out. Wave 61 with our AutoZuck solution.
Oh, he trapped the bat. Nice. Dang, Sweet's taking hits right there.
Okay, so we did clear the wave, but I do have some mixed feelings about how that went. On the one hand, it's amazing that this is working at all. I mean, we're literally auto-retaliating the Inferno. And just look at my mouse when I'm executing this. I mean, it honestly feels so surreal. I don't feel like I'm doing anything at all, and the wave just solves itself. It's really cool. But on the other hand, we did take too much damage for this to really be practical. It's not enough for us to just clear the waves. We need to conserve supplies, and we also need to be consistent. Also, the next two waves, wave 62 and 63, those are the true hardest waves in the entire Inferno, and
Yeah.
I think we would die to those based on this performance. We're going to need to improve our strategy. We don't want the AutoZuck to be just a proof of concept. We ideally want it to be so good that it can reliably get you an Infernal Cape. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to improve the AutoZuck to meet our goals? Let's take a minute to look at other Inferno strategies that are already used and see if we can get some inspiration from there. And specifically, we're going to look at the strategies known as First Cape
Guys, I'm uninstalling if people start auto-zucking the Inferno.
strategies. Now, I don't know about you, but I find First Cape Inferno strategies to be absolutely fascinating, and it's what inspired this project. The Infernal Cape is the best melee cape in the entire game. It's extremely sought after, but the Inferno is really difficult. It has such a high learning curve, and so ever since the Inferno was released, there's been great player demand for some kind of strategy that allows you to skip this learning curve and sort of cheese the Inferno and get your first Infernal Cape much more easily. So what kind of First Cape strategies have we seen over the years?
Bro, we've seen some bullshit strategies, bro. That Justicar shield one where you just like run behind the pillars. And then the mage tank one. I feel like most people get their a lot of people get their Infernal Cape with the mage tank thing. I don't even know what it is. What are you working on right now? I'm hitting some trees.
The first one to gain popularity was regen items. There are a few items in the game, such as the Sardaco and Godsword, that can regenerate your health and or prayer, which can really help you save supplies, and you can do something like this, where you leave an enemy at the end of a wave and slowly heal up on them while waiting to regenerate your special attacks. This does work, but it's not recommended because it takes so long. If you really want to beat the Inferno, you want to send multiple fast runs with high DPS so you can train and get experience. That's really what you should be doing, and slow runs like this
I
are
use
kind
the
of a noob trap.
Blood
They hurt
Barrage
you in the long
strat.
run. Okay, so First Cape strategy number 1, not recommended. The second First Cape strategy to become reasonably popular came with the release of Justiciar Armor, which is the best defensive armor in the
hell
entire
no.
game, even to this day. Now, the trade-off with Justiciar Armor is that his mass
Guys, imagine doing Inferno after Tob. I can't.
massive penalties to your magic attack and range attack, so you can't really fight the monsters while wearing this armor, but you can block their damage to a reasonable degree. Although, I gotta say, when I look up videos of how this is meant to be used, it's kind of insane and very inefficient. Like, take a look at this tutorial I found, and in this situation where you have a major and a ranger behind the pillar, you need to find a way to attack them one at a time. Normally, you could solve this extremely easily with prey flicking, but in this tutorial the guy mentions, number one, some people don't want to prey flick, but also there's people who have really bad internet connections, they basically can't prey flick. And so this is the crazy solution. You put on the tankiest armor possible, you run over to this pillar, drag the enemies with you, and then you run over to this pillar, drag the enemies again, and then, only then can you fight them one-on-one. So yeah, this is also not recommended.
I've never seen that. That's insane. You just tank them, boys.
In most cases, and so for many years, there really weren't good first cape strategies, and actually if you had approached an experienced player and asked them for their advice, they would have probably told you don't use a first cape strategy, they're more trouble than they're worth, just learn the Inferno properly. However, this has all changed somewhat recently with the introduction of our third and final first cape strategy. Yes,
seal.
I'm sure a lot of you know what it is, it's the Mage Tank.
Yeah, I heard about this one.
Mage Tank is a super...
What the hell is this armor? Torva top, Justy helmet, Oath plate legs?
Clever build that uses a lot of different armor pieces to create an amazing balance between the two stats we care about the most, magic attack and ranged defense. This build has blown up in popularity lately, and you've probably seen posts, there's so many from people talking about how great Mage Tank is and how, it finally got them their first Infernal Cape, and it's not hard to see why. The armor selection is very interesting. We start with our defensive core, and this is one piece of armor from 3 separate full armor sets. And what's really interesting is if you look at the stats, this hybrid setup we're using has a much better balance of these stats than any of these 3 full armor sets can have individually. We then add our hybrid items that boost both defense and magic, and then we add our pure magic items to boost our magic attack to the point where we can actually do a lot of damage. This build also uses the Confliction Gauntlets, which are extremely powerful here because they give you more accuracy.
And you can't hit 2 zeros in a row with Flicky G's on. They're busted.
After a missed attack, which is even more pronounced because we have a relatively low accuracy build. So yeah, the Mage Tank is awesome, and I would say this is recommended. It's a great way to get your Infernal Cape. Now, just to be clear, the Mage Tank is
I'm
not
trying to get Flicky G's today, guys.
Why when you look up videos of people using it,
what we're
they
going
still
for
do
today.
the Inferno normally. They still hide behind pillars and prey flick. They try their very hardest to take no damage, just like you normally would, but you just have more breathing room. When you make a mistake, it's a lot less likely to kill you. But let me show you the absolute coolest thing about Mage Tank. Check this out. If we make a diagram showing all 5 Inferno monsters, and I'm actually going to split the blob into its ranged attack and its mage attack, we can take a look at how the Mage Tank fares against each one of them individually. Now, typically with this build, you're going to pray protect from magic, so that it's going to shut down the major and the blob's mage attack. And you are very strong against these light ranged attacks down here. However, we're still weak to these heavier attacks. These guys just do so much damage that in an Inferno run, it's only a matter of time before you get hit 2 or 3 times in a row and you just die almost instantly.
So you just kill those ones
with the Mage Tank, you still have to be careful, and that's what I meant when I said the Mage Tank isn't invincible.
If you could auto-retaliate against the Ranger and pick a spot where the meleeer gets stuck behind the Ranger, then you're only tanking a few range hits. And then it will, if somehow you could just have it attack this one and then this one, then yeah, Mage Tank would be really, really strong, actually.
You still have to hide behind pillars and play the Inferno normally. But hold on a second. If we take a look at this diagram and we place the Autozuck on it using the information we've gathered so far, we can see that it's the opposite strengths and weaknesses. Remember, the Autozuck blocks all of these hits. It shuts down the heavy hitters completely. It also shuts down the blob's mage attack and only lets in these light ranged attacks, which the Mage Tank is strong against. The Mage Tank and the Autozuck are the perfect complements for each other. They complement each other's weaknesses. And when I realized this, I started to see this whole challenge completely differently. We are no longer the underdog in this story. We are now using a legitimately overpowered build. I mean, the defenses of Mage Tank plus literal computer-optimized prayer flicking, which reliably blocks almost all of the hits anyway, only letting in the ones that we are most powerful against. I mean, this is actually going to be ridiculous. Okay, it's time to put all of this into practice. I've updated the Autozuck with the following changes. It now supports Mage Tank. It now only shows the highest quality solutions. And it's much more efficient and much faster now. So what you're seeing is the old speed, but if we scout wave 61, this is the wave we're going to be solving with Mage Tank, and we plug it into the latest version of the Autozuck, this is the new speed.
I can't. This simulation is insane.
Okay, everything's
All right,
in place.
found the right
Let's
tile.
just do it. Wave 61 with the Autozuck Mage Tank combo.
And then Runelight just marks it for him to start. Damn, you even maged the major? I guess so, because you can't hit 2 zeros in a row. Well, you just hit 2 zeros in a row there. I can't tell you what rule's being violated, but this guy belongs in jail. That's what I'm saying.
So yeah, this is what I mean by the Autozuck and the Mage Tank being an incredible combination that cover each other's weaknesses. We just beat Wave 61 with 0 damage, and we didn't even have to know any Inferno mechanics to do so. Honestly, this doesn't even really feel like the Inferno anymore. The Inferno is not supposed to look like this. You're not supposed to be, you know, just in the middle of it.
Yeah, I know you're not supposed to do this.
It's
okay?
amazing. But
this is what happens when you like reverse engineer the video game. It's too easy. This is why min-maxing ruins the games, guys. Well, I'm not going to stop min-maxing though.
Still have the 2 hardest waves left to face, and these are no joke. They are actually so much harder. Wave 62 and 63, and let's just go for it. Here we are scouting wave 62. We're putting it into the Autozuck. And here's the solution, and you know, it just feels so crazy to even do this, but let's log in and let's just trust the process. Here we go.
This is spray flicking before they even spawn. Oh man. Easy, guys, easy. And look how the program, like, it uses, is it using the freaking major or the melee mob to block the bat like that? It's kind of insane if it is. I guess it is. It's picking the spot on the map to block off the bats.
Wave 62 cleared. Absolutely incredible. I feel like I say that just every time now, but it's very true. And we did take some damage, but totally an acceptable amount. No, that was an amazing result. We only have 1 wave left.
The double blob is the hardest wave.
After wave 63, it becomes extremely easy. Wave 63 is the final hard wave. And if we can beat this, that would mean the Autozuck can beat any wave in the Inferno. And that's going to have some pretty crazy implications.
But there's no bats, so it might be easier.
You know the process. We scout wave 63. We then put it into the Autozuck. And we're going to execute the solution. Here we go.
I thought these pillars were gone. Damn. Damn, guys, it looks like Triumphant might actually get Inferno Cape now. This is crazy to me.
And there it is. There it is. Wave 63 complete with the Autozuck. And if wave 62 and 63 are complete, that means it can complete any wave because every wave is easier than those waves. So, have we done it? Have we created a new meta method that people can just start using right away and clearing the Inferno without
no one's gonna be able to figure out how to do this.
Well, unfortunately, no. And that's because we need to address the elephant in the room. Or, should I say, the three little elephants in the room. Yes, the nibblers.
Really quickly. We're at 30 minutes and 40, whatever. 30 minutes, 47. Didn't these pillars die in the beginning of the video? Okay, there's one pillar up. There's one pillar up. Like, is he doing a different attempt for this video? There's two pillars up here. They're just different runs. Okay. What time did I say it was at? Or the nibblers? 30:47.
And they just chip at our pillars and sometimes even destroy them in some of these clips, and I've basically ignored them up until this point. This is not good, as the pillars are very important. Normally when you do the Inferno, you want to protect your pillars, and actually for that reason, you typically target the nibblers right away. They're a top priority. There's really no way for us to do this with the Autozuck. We're using Auto Retaliate, and the nibblers don't even attack us, so there's just kind of nothing we can do.
They do once the pillars are gone.
If we want to use the Autozuck for one wave, it costs one pillar. And admittedly, this is a huge flaw because you normally really need your pillars. So is the Autozuck even useful then? I mean, is there any scenario where you would be okay making this trade, where you would actually want to use it for a wave if it costs you an entire pillar? Well, actually yes, I do think we can say the Autozuck is somewhat useful in its current state. Sometimes it is worth it to trade away a pillar. If you're on wave 62 and you have all three pillars left, yeah, you can definitely use the Autozuck for the next two waves. It's actually might be a really good decision if you don't feel comfortable
doing it
yourself.
You could use it on the hardest waves.
You could also use the Autozuck as a last resort if just in general you think you're going to lose.
No way, it's legal.
You don't have to use the Autozuck.
I mean, what's illegal about it?
In fact, I expect most of you to use it only for the first, 30 seconds or so of a wave, because once you've killed one or two enemies, the rest are really easy to clean up, and you'll probably just...
I mean, to me, the fact that people figured out that you could log out at the beginning of an Inferno wave, see what the wave was, and then think about how you were going to solve it beforehand, just kind of like... I wish Jagex would have... I wish they would still fix that. I don't like that. But like what I don't like doesn't really matter. I mean, it's already in the game. I don't know if there's anything they can do about it.
Do that manually and you'll kill the nibblers much earlier. So if you're proactive, then it won't cost a whole pillar. Maybe you'll lose like, a quarter of a pillar or something like that, which makes the trade a little bit better. But can we do better? Can we accomplish our goal of making the Autozuck something that can solve an entire Inferno run? In other words, can we keep using the Autozuck even once we've lost our pillars? I'm sure some of you have been wondering why we even need the pillars at all. I mean, clearly these Autozuck solutions don't need them for cover, so what's the big deal if we lose all three? Well, the issue is the nibblers. When there's no pillars left, the nibblers attack you, and this is actually insanely bad for 2 big reasons. First off, the nibblers do absurd damage. They only have a max hit of 4, but for some reason, they have 100% accuracy.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know why, but they do, and that means our mage tank armor is completely useless.
That's gonna be
and
tough.
with 3 of them, their DPS is extremely high. You can die really quickly to them. And then, if that wasn't bad enough, the nibblers are also the only enemy that you can't scout. Yes, every time you log in, the nibbler spawn is randomized in this little 3x3 area, and we can't predict this, so we can't take advantage of these tick-perfect strategies we've developed. And if you're having a hard time visualizing why this is so bad, take a look at this clip where you can see I'm sort of locked in combat with the ranger,
got
and
owned
the
by the
nibblers are
nibblers.
just chipping me down, and there's nothing I can do about it with auto-retaliate.
He just dies?
However, we can actually damage the nibblers indirectly with recoil damage. We can use the Ring of Suffering and the Echo Boots, which by the way are already 2 incredibly defensive items. In fact, they're both best in slot for defense, which is really great for us, but they also do
Is it kind of crazy that the best in slot defense items also can retaliate damage? Didn't we learn anything about Thorn's tank?
recoil damage to enemies that damage you. And since the nibblers do little amounts of damage and they also have very low health,
I guess they don't do that much damage, so it's not a big deal.
Them. Although, when you run the math, the numbers don't really look all that good. The Ring of Suffering alone will do 1 damage to the nibblers per hit taken, which means we need to take 10 hits
I swear
per
Echo
nibbler
Boost
for a
don't
total
proc
of
that
30
much.
hits before our Ring of Suffering is going to kill them. And this works out to an average of 75 damage received. Yeah, that's kind of insane. When you add the Echo Boots and you use these together, that drops to an average of 51 damage, which is actually, you know, that's workable, especially if we overheal between waves, for example. But it's not workable for every wave. That's just too much of a drain on our supplies. So it seems that even with this recoil damage, we still aren't going to be able to accomplish our goal of doing an entire Inferno run with auto-retaliate. We are so close, and at the start of this video, I said we would use every advantage, every optimization we could possibly find, and we're already using the best armor, the best recoil items, computer-optimized prayer flicking, and starting tile that takes into consideration all of this stuff. But there is one last tool we can try, which might be the perfect thing we need for the problems that are caused by the nibblers, and that is Blood Barrage. Blood Barrage is the most powerful healing spell in the entire game, but it doesn't do as much damage as the Eye of Ayak. This is why we weren't using it before, but now that our problem is more about supplies and out-healing these nibblers, the problem becomes less one of clearing the wave, more one of endurance, and actually Blood Barrage starts to look pretty good for what we're needing. So, in order to investigate this, I added Blood Barrage to the Autozuck, and I actually had to make many changes to how the Autozuck functions when you have this loadout selected. It's just a whole different game, so there's a lot of little changes, but the main one is now the score that you see is no longer the amount of damage you took, but instead, and this is a little confusing, but it's over the course of the simulation, what is the most amount of health you are missing. It has to
predict how much
because, you know, it doesn't really
HP
matter anymore
you're going to get back as well.
As long as we are out
on
healing.
average.
We might take a lot of damage, but we're always healing more than we're taking, and that is really how we're going to clear all these waves. After making these changes, I realized that there was nothing left to do but to actually try this, and the magnitude of what we were about to attempt is pretty insane. So far, we've only created something that is somewhat useful to people who already know the Inferno, but there's an entire group of players who just never want to learn any Inferno mechanics at all, and if this works, that would provide them a way to get their Infernal Cape for the first time ever. It's all so crazy, and we've already come so far, and now all that remains is the final challenge. There's nothing.
Yo, guys, if anybody got to use Autozuck, you don't deserve the Infernal Cape, bruh. If anybody had to do this, you should unequip the Infernal Cape immediately and be ashamed of yourself, okay? This is supposed to be something you do on your own. Like, what is this? What do you mean he's trying to help people get this thing? Guys, this is crazy, okay? Don't do this.
Nothing left for us to do but to hop in the Inferno.
Just
and
wear the
try
fire cape with pride, man.
Auto-retaliate only Inferno run. Okay, this is going to be a crazy challenge. The only rule is we can't click on any monsters to attack them. We have to target everything using only auto retaliate, and in fact, I'm even going to disable my option to even click on monsters at all. Now, as you can see, because we can't target the nibblers, they just eat our pillars right away. That's kind of how this run is going to.
Yeah, but like if if he was doing this to help people get their Infernal Cape, he could at least click. Right? Or would that be too easy to just kill the nibblers? Would that be cheating? I mean, I know it's for the YouTube video, the auto retaliate thing, but now I'm confused. Is he trying to help people get the first Infernal Cape, or is he just trying to do the challenge? It's like a mixture of the two, but one of them doesn't make sense if you just click the nibblers, you know?
Start. So yeah, this run is basically a pillarless Inferno as well, which is really crazy.
Okay,
and for
so
these early waves,
he's just
I'm
going to
still
do it without the pillars.
I'm just not using the autozuck because I'm pretty sure I know what the solution is going to be anyway. And by the way, if you're curious, this is what it looks like to run the autozuck on wave 2. So yeah, it's kind of funny, entirely unnecessary.
Every
but
single
don't worry,
tile
we'll
is
be using
green.
the autozuck quite a lot very soon.
Because with this gear and armor, you're generating more health than you're losing on every wave in the beginning.
Okay, we just beat wave 14, and now let's use the autozuck for the next wave, wave 15.
Oh, but it has to run it for every single tile.
Desktop view, and I can show you very clearly just how easy this is to do. Step 1 is I'm going to scout the wave. You can see I've logged in. I'm waiting in this corner, getting ready to log out. Okay, tick 15. I logged out on that tick. You can see that the Inferno Scouter plugin recorded everything, and I'm going to click copy code and then paste code into the autozuck, click start autozuck.
I hate that that's a thing.
And yeah, it really is just that easy.
Learning to speedrun Inferno is easier than
this? Now
this?
that the autozuck is done running, you can click this export tile marker button, go back and click paste it right here, and then, yeah, you're all set up. You're ready to go. And the prayer sequence, this is what you're going to be following, and you click on the first prayer on tick 15. Now, you can see the recommended tile is pretty far away, and I won't be able to reach it before the monsters spawn, so I'm just going to log out, then log back in again, and then try to reach it again. The timer resets whenever you log back in, so, you know, you can do that. You can take your time. Alright, spawning in, and this is actually a very clever solution. Take a look at how we target the melee first, and the nibblers are moving into our area of effect range when we're using our blood barrage, killing them. This is extra interesting because if you didn't know, the blood barrage effect when you cast on a larger enemy actually targets the...
What? Look at the square of the radius. It's a 3... Blood barrage is a 3x3. So if you are like southwest of the meleeer, then the nibblers will get hit within its hitbox.
Southwest tile of that enemy, yeah, it's really strange. But the autozuck takes that into account, and it works to our advantage, and we're able to clear the wave without much issue. These next waves are very easy. We don't even need the autozuck for them again. But okay, we just beat wave 21. You know the process. Scout the wave, copy the wave code, run the autozuck, copy the solution so we have the tile marker, and let's do it. Okay, and as these spawn, this is a really cool solution too. Watch how we're targeting the ranger, and the nibblers are going through the AoE path of our blood barrage, and so they take a... Oh, and they all die. Perfect in one shot.
God.
Absolutely amazing. Also, you can see the bat is trapped. It's really cool how even on these easy waves, the autozuck is coming up with these seemingly very intelligent and creative solutions. And once again, it's not actually that the autozuck is smart, guys. It's that it's using a brute force and rank approach, which sort of leads to emergent intelligent solutions or things that seem really carefully planned when actually they're just the ones that rank to the highest of every possible solution. Okay, we're handling these early waves surprisingly well. I kind of thought we'd have some big problem up until this point, but we really haven't. Now, I want to point something out on this wave, wave 29. You can see I've started it with pretty low health, 45 health, and it is a decently tricky wave, so is that an unnecessary risk that I'm taking? Well, if you look at the autozuck graph, you can kind of see that it's very unlikely that we're going to lose more than 45 health total at this point in the run, so I'm choosing to save.
I know you say getting help means they don't deserve it, but how many people have a friend on a call with them giving them advice during the actual Zuck part? I mean, most people have YouTube and know how to type in no monkey. That usually is a pretty good friend. He's also live on stream. He'll probably answer your questions.
supplies, and this goes to
Especially
show
if
how
you
the
sub to him or
autosuck can
donate.
give you more information than just will you solve the wave. It also gives you a pretty good idea of how you can expect that wave to go, and you can use that information to make good decisions and save your supplies. Okay, this wave 31, you gotta see what happens here. This is so cool. I've already pointed out a few ways that the autosuck is cleverly dealing with the nibblers, but this one is by far the coolest. Watch as our character moves towards the ranger, and this causes the nibblers to do this pivot right here, and it puts them all on the same tick. Yes, this
And
is
now he's
literally
Southwest
something I
tile.
didn't think was possible. Because the nibblers, their spawn is randomized, I didn't think there would be a way to line them all up like this, but somehow the autosuck has found a way, and they are in sync with the melee, so we're just using one protect from melee tick and blocking all 4 of these enemies. That's absolutely insane. And I thought that would be the coolest way we would see the nibblers get dealt with by the autosuck, but in literally the very next wave, now we have the exact same thing with 2 meleers. Yeah, look at this. The autosuck has somehow managed to place both meleers and all 3 nibblers all on the same tick. That is absolutely insane. Oh, and it looks so ridiculous in the actual autosuck program. Like, we click on the tile, we can click step a few times to get to the tick, and then boom. Yeah, look at that. All those hits on the same tick, and as you can see, it keeps repeating. That is honestly just so ridiculous, and the autosuck is clearly working very well, so let's push on.
Damn, this is making Pillarless Inferno look easy.
We're starting to get pretty deep into the Inferno now. Wave 35. Every wave from here on out will have a major, and this is now going to be very difficult. Especially because if we look at wave 36, see, the major can revive the bat. The major can actually revive any fallen enemy.
Oh, yeah.
But don't worry, the autosuck does take this into consideration. But
So you kill the major
means
first.
that the best solution is going to be one that targets the major first, so that it doesn't have the chance to revive anyone. And now we're on wave 39. This is where we need the autosuck for the major because there's too many other enemies. And from here on out, I think we're going to use the autosuck for every single wave. It's just too dangerous to not do it at this point. As we keep going, the waves do get more intense, but it really doesn't get harder. I mean, this autosuck strategy is basically the same difficulty to execute no matter what the wave actually is, and honestly, it kind of even gets a little boring. Like, you kind of forget you're even doing the Inferno, you're just kind of clicking the buttons until the wave is over, but that's great. Yeah, fine, it's a little boring, but that's exactly what we want. This means that people who don't know the Inferno mechanics will be able to execute this strategy just like you're seeing me do right here. Okay, so we keep clearing these waves, but then we get to wave 50, the first wave with a major and a ranger, and every wave from here on out will have both of these, and these are the hardest waves in the entire Inferno, wave 50 to 63. Alright, and no more desktop view, we're locking in for these ones, but I hope that desktop view gave you a really good visual of just how easy it actually is to use the autosuck, and that this really is something you can use yourself. To use the autosuck, just click the link in the description, and it'll open it in your web browser. No download required. The web browser version is free and always will be
anybody
free,
gonna be
but
using the
if you would
autosuck?
like, and this is totally optional by the way, you can get the autosuck app on mobile. Yes, that's right. There is now an autosuck app on the iOS and Android app stores available for $2.
No
Now
way.
again, this is a totally optional purchase, but if you really like these videos and you want to support future projects, this is a great way to do so. Your purchase is very much appreciated. And it's a very cool app to have on your phone. There's really nothing like it. So if that's interesting to you, definitely download the official autosuck app from the App Store today. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get back to the challenge.
Dude.
And let's do these final waves and see just how far we can push the autosuck. As we clear these waves, getting closer and closer to the end, I find myself constantly surprised at how well this is working. The basic formula of scout the wave, use the autosuck, then execute the solution just keeps on working. And yeah, the pressure is increasing, especially these majors we have to kill, and they have a lot of defense, so it takes a long time. But it seems every time we take a hit, we just out-heal it almost immediately, and it doesn't even feel like we're really getting all that close to dying. I did not think that we would actually be able to clear all the waves, but we're getting closer and closer. But until we've done wave 62 and 63, the hardest waves, and doing those pillarless, again, we did those before, but we had pillars before, and now we're doing it pillarless with the nibblers as well. It's still unclear if we'll beat these waves, but we'll keep
I
pushing.
mean, as long as you live through the major, then
Wave 60.
you live. That blood barrage is just not very good on the major. But it's really good on the ranger.
And here we go, wave 61, the third hardest wave in the entire Inferno. We are almost there.
Yeah, you know what
Wave
people are just
60
not calculating with this is that you have to prayer flick perfectly every single tick. That's harder than just using the pillars.
61 complete. We only have the 2 hardest waves in the Inferno left, and it all comes down to this. As we scout the wave, just think about what's on the line here. We almost have a system that can beat the Inferno without knowing the mechanics.
It's not that hard, yeah.
If we die on the...
Guys, if you can do what he's doing right here, you don't need any of this. Now you've already beat the Inferno if you can prayer flick perfectly on every single tick. That's what the Inferno is.
These next 2 waves, then that would mean it isn't really useful yet. Maybe we'd have to wait for a new update or something for more powerful gear because, you know, it's not going to be useful if it just falls short right at the very end. It has to go all the way through.
He's got this, surely. He's not actually prayer flicking. What is this called? Prayer alternating? I mean, he's prayer flicking. He's not one tick flicking. He's prayer flicking. He's just changing prayers. Isn't changing prayers called prayer flicking? And then there's one tick flicking, which is not losing any prayer points. One tick alternating. One tick alternating is known as prayer flicking, I believe. And then you have, oh, sorry. Yeah, one tick alternating is prayer flicking. Then you have one tick flicking, which is 2 clicks in 1 tick to not lose any prayer points. So if he was clicking twice instead of once here every tick, then he would be doing this without using any prayer points. Yeah, he would just have to do 2 clicks instead of 1. I don't think he's trying to do this without using supplies. He's just trying to do it by auto-retaliating. But I think the natural thing of RuneScape, just from an audience point, like I notice a lot of times you guys do this, where like, if I'm not doing something the most efficient way, the first thing you do is point out, hey, you know there's a more efficient way. Like this is just such a natural RuneScape thing to do. Is like you have knowledge that you cannot not say. That's like the RuneScape audience to a T. Like if anybody knows of a better method, they have to say it. So if somebody sees this guy doing a method and there's like, oh, he's losing prayer points here and he doesn't have to, like, then somebody will say that. That's just how the RuneScape audience is.
Wave 62 complete. Okay, we just have wave 63, the final
Has to be
wave.
said.
There is nothing left to say that we haven't said already. Let's just scout the wave. Run the autozuck.
Well, actually...
And let's execute the solution. Here we go, wave 63, the final Inferno wave. Here we go.
He's got this easy. This is easy, guys. This is free. As soon as the mage dies, I mean, the wave is done because the mage is the one that's hard to kill. He didn't even take any damage on the hardest wave. Is he gonna do Zuck? Wait, this video doesn't have Zuck in it? I feel like I got scammed. Guys, I feel like I got scammed. Auto Zuck without
Zuck. And that right
Zuck.
there is the Auto Zuck. A brand...
Bro, why didn't you call it the Auto Wave? It literally just does the waves. How can you put Zuck in the title without Zuck? Guys, I've been scammed. I have been scam game today.
New computer solved way to beat the Inferno that
I was watching this whole thing thinking it was building up to Zuck.
That was the first attempt, and I never felt like we were going to die. Now, we still do have waves 64, 65, and 66.
Yeah, and what about 69, brother? Auto Zuck.
But as I mentioned, these are much easier than the waves we just did, so we don't really need to clear them to prove that the autos can do them. I was going to anyway, of course, but after beating wave 63, I became super overconfident. I wasn't paying attention. I was literally looking at my other screen, and I was actually doing the cycle completely wrong. So yeah, that was human error. We died on wave 64, which is very embarrassing. But as long as you pay just a little better attention and you don't get cocky like I did, you should be able to beat every single wave in the Inferno this way. Now, that run we did, auto retaliate for every single wave, took about 3 hours in total, which is quite long.
No.
We had these supplies remaining, which is pretty good, actually. But we also spent 3.5 mil worth of runes for the blood barrages, so that's quite expensive.
Damn.
However, remember that these are the stats for doing auto retaliate for every single wave, which is kind of ridiculous. I only did that for demonstration. When you use this,
you could use Auto Zuck, and it's only 3 hours of perfectly prayer flicking on every single tick.
What I strongly recommend, and frankly the obvious best way to use this, is do the Inferno normally up until the point where you think you're going to die, you know, wave 50 or 60 or whatever, and then use the Auto Zuck only for the final waves. If you do this, your run will be much faster, you'll use less supplies, and you won't spend so much money on runes. And that about wraps it up. What an amazing result. I definitely didn't think it would be this effective when I started the project. Really hope you all enjoyed watching. Thanks so much. There are more computer optimized opportunities out there, so subscribe if you want to see those. Also, remember...
I like the computer optimized content videos. I don't see any practical use for it, but I don't even know if I like that he was trying to think that there was a practical use for this. There's no reason to ever use this. I think he should just leave that part out of the video, but maybe he was trying to make some money to sell his app or something. Yeah, really entertaining video, the Auto Zuck. However, there was no Zuck. So I feel like it shouldn't be called Auto Zuck. Because now I feel scammed. I thought he was going to auto retaliate Zuck and it was going to follow behind the shield or something. I guess it wouldn't even be possible. So maybe that's why he didn't do it.